Hi everyone, this is Sam with Wine News in 5. As far as site news this week, we've just announced an event in Tokyo. Richard Hemming MW will be hosting a tasting of mature wines from Margaret River on March 22nd. If you're curious, you can find the full list of wines Richard is presenting and a link to sign up on our site. In terms of global news, today I'll discuss a bill to strengthen U.S. wine labeling, the new EU-India trade deal, a delay in the EU-Mercosur trade deal, reports on the US, South African, and Australian wine markets, snow in the Douro, the end of the drought in California, and new signatories on the Sustainable Wine Roundtable. First up, a bill to strengthen US wine labeling. On January 14th, California put forward an assembly bill that, if passed, would require that wine labeled with American or United States be made from 100% grapes grown within the United States. This might seem obvious, but in fact the law currently allows 25% imported wine in wines that use the country designation. This isn't the first time such a bill has been put forward. In 2008, a coalition of wine producers sent a petition to the federal government for a 100% US grape requirement for US or American wine. That petition was unsuccessful, which seems ridiculous considering that the bill is not limiting the use of imported bulk wine in domestic wine blends. It's simply proposing that we require labeling transparency. If you're a California resident, I'd suggest giving your rep a nudge just to say that you support label transparency and that they should vote yes on AB 1585. The bill goes to committee on February 14th. On to the new EU-India trade deal. It may have taken almost 2 decades, but on January 27th, the EU and India finally reached a free trade agreement. The agreement covers almost all goods as well as lays out a framework for deeper defense and security cooperation. It's expected that this will cut 4 billion euros in tariffs for exporters. As far as wine is concerned, tariffs on EU wine entering India will be cut from 150% to 20 to 30%, depending on if the wine is mid-range or premium. Spirits will see tariffs cut from 150% to 40% and beer from 110% to 50%. Next, a delay in the EU-Mercosur trade deal. On January 27th, the EU and Mercosur, just Argentina, Brazil, Paraguay, and Uruguay, because Bolivia was not part of the bloc at the time of negotiations, signed a free trade agreement that slashed 90% of the tariffs between the 31 countries. This deal was set to eliminate or substantially reduce 27% tariffs on wine and 35% tariffs on spirits. However, on January 21st, the European Parliament voted to refer the deal to the European Court of Justice for a legal opinion. The EU's wine trade body, Comité Européen des Entreprises Vins, CEEV, has expressed disappointment, expecting this will delay implementation of the deal for 18 to 20 months. While this delay may be upsetting for wine producers, the reason for the referral was largely due to France's agriculture lobby raising the case that the deal has the potential to flood the market with cheap imported beef, sugar, and poultry. As the French publication Le Monde rightly points out, the EU's agriculture sector is already suffering. EU farmers shoulder some of the strictest regulations in the world on pesticide use and animal welfare. To allow imports to undercut them will further weaken the sector. Next, reports on the US wine market. A couple new reports on the US wine market were released this week. In the Gomberg-Fredrickson report, editor John Moramarco shared that the US wine market value in 2025 was 0.1% higher than in 2024 at 366 million cases. While sales are holding steady, the makeup of sales has shifted massively. Domestic sparkling wine sales grew 33% and domestic flavored wine sales grew 24%. 56% of total sales were domestic still wines, down from 64% in 2018. Accounting for the tiny 2025 harvest in California, which is the source of more than 80% of US wine, the year-end inventory would be expected to last 18 months at the current rate of depletion. Moramarco is quoted as saying, "With the short 2025 crush, we may be in balance, which is good news." On the other hand, the annual direct-to-consumer wine shipping report from Sovos Ship Compliant and Wine Business Analytics shows a 967,000 case, $230 million contraction in direct-to-consumer sales in 2025. This is a 15% volume decline and 6% value decline over 2024. Wines of South Africa and South Africa Wine released their export report on January 26th. The report shows a 4.7% contraction in value of exports last year to 9.8 billion rand and a 13.8% contraction in volume to 264 million litres. Wine Australia also released their export report last week on January 28th. The report shows an 8% contraction in value of exports to 2.34 billion Australian dollars and a 6% contraction in volume to 613 million litres. On to snow in the Douro and the end of the drought in California. Two very odd but welcome things have happened in the last month. On January 26, Paul Symington emailed Jancis with the news that it had snowed in the Douro Valley in Portugal. He noted that there hasn't been a snow like this since the 1960s, but that this is a very positive development as the cold weather assists in shutting down vines and makes for healthier vineyards. He also sent a photo of his grandfather Maurice's car driving through the snow in the Douro in 1924, when snow on the ground wasn't unusual. Even more welcome news. U.S. Drought Monitor shows that California is officially drought-free for the first time in 25 years. I wish the same could be said about the rest of the U.S. Finally, new signatories to the Bottle Weight Accord. The Sustainable Wine Roundtable has added 5 new signatories to the Bottle Weight Accord. The UK distributors Ellis Wines and Guy Anderson Wines, the Rioja producer Bodegas Baronia, and Argentine Domaine Bosque, and the alcohol monopoly of Quebec, the SAQ, have all committed to reducing the average weight of the 750 milliliter still wine bottles they sell from the current average of approximately 550 grams to an average bottle weight below 420 grams. In just 2 years, the SWR has managed to draw together 20 wine companies that account for approximately 9% of global wine sales to lower packaging weights and have thereby mitigated an estimated 440,000 tons of CO2. That's all for this episode of the Wine News. If you enjoy this newscast and you'd like to see it continue, please become a member of jancisrobinson.com. And if you have breaking news in your area, please email jancisrobinson.com. Thanks.